A slide is a one-page content that can be customized in our content designer. In most cases, these are used for showing more dynamic information, like weather forecasts, social media feeds, etc. But in other cases, they can be used for creating static designs that will change often, like event announcements and welcome screens. Today we are going to create slides, customize them, and put them in a playlist so we can assign them to a screen. First, we will select the templates we want to use for our slides. Let's start creating our first slide by clicking on the red plus icon at the top of the Contents menu. Then click Create Content from Template. We will then find an event announcement as our slide. Once selected, press the Next button so we can give the slide a name. We will name it Announcements. Finally, click Create and a slide will be added to your portal. We will now repeat the same steps as before, but this time we will add a welcome template. This will be used to greet guests as they walk into our office. Click Next, and then we will name the slide Welcome. Once we press Create, another slide will be added to our portal. We will repeat the steps one more time by adding a weather forecast template that updates automatically. To make things easier, use the search bar and type weather, then select a template. Press Next and name the slide Weather. Finally, press Create and the slide will then be added to our portal. Now that we have added all of our slide templates, we will need to customize them in the designer. We will start with the announcement slide first and use it for an upcoming event. To open it in the designer, hover over the content and select the red pencil icon. Before we start editing the slide, let's explain the layout of the designer so you can become a bit more familiar with it. In the center is a canvas made up of various widgets. These widgets are found to the left and dragged onto the canvas layer by layer. Each of these widgets serve a specific purpose. For example, a text widget allows you to type a message on the canvas and adjust its font, color, size, etc. You can see all the widgets on the canvas by looking at the Layers panel in the bottom right corner. You can select and edit a widget's properties by clicking on it either on the canvas or in the Layers panel. Let's begin by editing the color of the background. In this case, it's a shape widget. Start by selecting the colored background away from the other widgets. Once selected, the Properties panel will appear. The Properties panel is where you control what a widget can do or how it looks. You will see there are multiple tabs for the widget, page, and content properties. But we will be focusing mainly on the widget properties. Let's first disable the gradient and select a color for our background. Click on the gradient toggle, then select the fill color icon. I will use a specific color by typing in a hex code, so first let's remove the transparency by adjusting the toggle on the right. Then select the hex tab. I will then type in the hex code. If you would like to manually select a color, you can also click into the color picker like I will do now. Once selected, we will then add the transparency back using the slider. Once finished, press Select. This event will be held in Dallas, so we will change the background image to a picture of the Dallas skyline. Instead of clicking on this layer in the canvas, let's select it in the Layers panel. Click the layer Image 1. And then select the source property at the top of the Properties panel. This will take us to the File Manager where we can upload the files we want to use. To upload files, click on the plus icon at the top of the File Manager. Click Upload, and once in the pop-up, select the assets you'd like to use by control-clicking. Finally, click Open once finished. If you see this warning, you can select Upload, but just keep in mind that larger images with a higher resolution may load slowly on weaker devices. Since I uploaded files that we will use later, let's unselect them so only the image of the Dallas skyline is selected. We will then select Choose File. Now that the background of our slide is finished, let's add a logo in the top left corner. To do this, start by selecting the placeholder logo on the canvas, and then select Source in the Properties panel. We will then select our logo and then choose File. If you still need to resize your logo, you can click on the corner of the widget and drag it. If you hold Shift, it will maintain its aspect ratio. Next, let's click the event image so we can change it. Then click Source in the Properties panel and we will select an image of the guest speaker who will be presenting at the event. Once selected, press Choose File like previously. Let's now change the text that provides information about the event. We will start selecting the text widget at the top of the canvas, then edit the text box in the Properties panel. After typing in our text, we can then adjust the font size below in the Properties panel. You could also select a different type of font or even upload your own under the Font Family property. But for now, I will keep what the template gave us. Let's now change the other text widget to display the name of the guest speaker instead. We will follow the same steps as before by selecting the text widget and then inputting our text in the Properties panel. Finally, our last step will be to change the cost of the event to free. To do this, we will select the text widget like before, type free in the Properties panel, then click and drag the widget on the canvas to reposition it. Now that we are finished with our edits, we will need to save our changes. Go to the top of the Content Designer and press the Save icon. Once this is done, press the PeakSignage logo in the top left corner to return to the home page. With one slide complete, the next slide template we are going to customize is the weather forecast. We will be changing the content to show the weekly forecast for Dallas and adjust the style to align with the example's branding. To do this, we will hover over the weather slide and press the pencil icon. Once in the designer, we will start with customizing the main weather icon. Begin by selecting it on the canvas. Then we will look for the icon set property. Next, click the drop-down and select a theme. There are many themes you can choose from, but we will select Colorful 3D8. We now have to change the weather widget's location to Dallas so we can bring in the correct forecast information. First, we will type in the city ID, which is your city's postal code. Then we will type in the name of our location under the display name. Finally, we will select the country code. By default, this is set to the US, but to be more precise, we will select the US and the state we are located in. Lastly, select the Apply to All Widgets button. This will apply the same settings to the rest of the weather widgets. To confirm, press the OK button, and you will see them change. Our last edit will be changing the background color. We will start by selecting the Shape widget and clicking on one of the fill colors in the Properties panel. When the color picker appears, we will click on the tab in the bottom right corner. This will allow us to select colors that we have previously chosen. We will select one of the colors and press Select. We will then repeat the same steps for the other fill color because this shape has the gradient property enabled. The last step will be to adjust the direction slider depending on what looks best. Once we are finished, we will select the Save icon. To return to the home page, we will press the PeakSignage logo in the top left corner. With our second slide finished, you should now feel much more comfortable in our designer. However, we still have one more slide to finish, the Welcome slide. To edit it, hover over the slide like previously and select the pencil icon. Now that we are in the designer, we will first select the background image so we can change it to the Dallas skyline. But because it is located behind the colored shape widget, we will have to select it in the Layers panel instead of the canvas. To do this, we will select the layer image 1 in the Layers panel. Once we have done that, we will then select the source option in the Properties panel. Lastly, we'll select the image of the Dallas skyline and then choose File. For our next step, we could adjust the shape widget's gradient like before, but in this case, I want the overlay to be black. So while I could hide the layer like so, I will just delete it by pressing Delete on my keyboard. To make the remaining shape widget a bit darker, we will select it and edit the fill color. With the color set to black, we will only need to adjust the transparency slider. Once finished, we'll press Select. Once we are finished applying our changes and are happy with how the slide looks, we will then save it by clicking on the Save icon. Then to return to the home page, we will press the PeakSignage logo in the top left corner. With all our slides complete, we now have to combine them in a playlist before we can assign them to a screen. To begin, let's click on the red plus icon followed by selecting Create Playlist. We will name the slide Corporate and then press Create and Open. Once in the playlist editor, we will want to go to the Slides section so we can view all of the slides we made. To do this, select the Slides icon to the left. Now that we can view our slides, we will start by dragging the Welcome slide into the playlist timeline. We will then proceed by adding the announcement and weather slides. Now that we have all the slides in our playlist, the last thing we need to change is the duration of each slide. I will start by changing the duration of the Welcome slide to 8 seconds and then continue with the rest. Once finished, we will press the Save button to save our changes, followed by the Play icon to view the playlist we just made. While it will still be helpful to learn how to design slides from scratch, you should now have a better understanding of how to use templates and customize them using the designer. Thanks for following along. We'll see you in the next one.